Hello, I am Larry Rouse, and this is a commentary track for my 2019 album, Wide Eye Horizon. The opener, Open Eye, the Sky is Purple, starts with these mystical samples, as you can hear. It's all a bunch of samples. But then I, kind of Dark Side of the Moon inspired, throw in a bunch of the vocal samples, one from each of the songs with vocals. I thought it was kind of clever. They're like reversed and affected and stuff. And then it actually starts. I'm not sure about this intro, because at the time I was kind of pleased with it. I thought it gave it kind of an unusual intro, but ever since I don't know. Because when the song kicks in, it kind of kicks off with the mood I kind of wanted for the start of this album, but those first 15 seconds or whatever were not really it. But I still think it's cool either way. It's not very comfortable to sit with someone listening to the album for the first time and just having to get through that, you know. But hey, these bits, this song is a weird one for me. I always felt like I wasn't that happy. I like what the song sounds like, and I like it being the opener. I guess it was more that I was lazy making this song. Like, a lot of it is just a bunch of samples and not my own composition, really. But it does the job. It was actually this was actually one of the last songs I made on the album. This is one of the newest songs on there, because everything else was done, and I was just like, well, I need some kind of intro. I feel like me now making this would have just put Light the Way on as the intro, but yeah, all these kinds of effect delays and stuff. And hey, I just realised the intro of the album kind of starts again almost. I remember someone wanted to remix this at one point, but that didn't happen. Something else I was going to say. Sorry, that's going to happen with me a lot. Yeah. This is 2022 Larry Rouse speaking, by the way. It's been a while since this came out. But this is one of the albums I care most about, and I think it's good to be able to hear what the artist has to say about their work. So this is Light the Way, of course. It doesn't have to be said on a commentary track, but I'll say anyway, the origin of this song, because I've written it elsewhere, that this was written and recorded for the Vect live show I did in 2019 as my final college project. And that's how the vocalist ended up on this as well, of course, a fellow college student. And playing this out was really fun. I think it was good. This was the first song I played live, which again just makes it all the more puzzling as to why I didn't pick this as the opener for the album, but it's fine. Yeah, and all the synths and the loop. What's funny, the kind of the drum and bass loop that I used for this. At the time, I was like, "Hey, this sounds good. I want to use this," and then I just started listening to more and more classic drum and bass and hearing it like crop up every other song, and I was like, "Oh well, you know, it's an homage to something I hadn't heard at the time." Yeah, I really like this bit. I like the way the notes repeat and just kind of all poppy. Not really poppy in terms of pop music, but just kind of the kind of sound they have, that kind of like pleasant plinking, you know. I don't know how else to describe it, really. I'm not really here to describe the music, I'm here to explain things about it. So yeah, I used a bunch of real synths. Not really, I mean real as in physical, sorry, not I'm going into existential dread here. With this a song that isn't on the album, Swiss Army Dagger, Glide and Ghust from the Vest EP. Not Vest EP. Yeah, and they were all as part of a pair, but also the synth recordings were used in other songs. So in the same session, I think even same recording as the main synth lead in this song, was also the lead in Sweet Release from Face in the Water. So these are sister tracks, I'd say. I'd call them like sisters of one another because of the way they were produced and made. Same thing, whatever. Yeah. Lead's nice. I imagine it gets a bit tiring after all, especially with how kind of high-pitched and raspy they are. So this is the 3-minute edit. The extended edit didn't exist when the album was released. I made it after the album came out. I can't remember why. I think I was listening to more kind of slow drum and bass, and I was like, what would Light the Way sound like if it were longer? So I did that. Yeah. This kind of sweeping of the master. Initially, it was... I pull up the resonance, and it was really rough. It really kind of peaked, and I had to like just absolutely tame it so it didn't destroy your ears when you listen to it. I don't know what else. I feel like I didn't say a lot about Light the Way, but not much else to say about it really. You know, it was nice. I came up with the name from I believe it was a company that actually does lighting. Someone in my class had written it down for the show, and I saw that and I was like, that's a nice name for a song. And then I called the project file that, and then when the vocalist was like, what do I sing? I was just like, I don't know, it's called Light the Way, so go ahead, sing Light the Way. So the lyrical recording predates the song. Anyway, I'm talking over the next song. I know I can do that because it's the longest on the album, but this is the title track, which heavily borrows from C418's Debt from 2007's BPs, I think it's called, BPS. Yeah, apart from the vocal samples, I dug up some old, free female vocal sample pack .ra, whatever. Man's got to do what man's got to do, and kind of assembled this. But this was the first time, like, I in 2018, 2019, I've been listening to a lot of classic trance music from like the late 90s, and yet I'd never actually applied myself to make it, I wouldn't say authentic, but like, stylistically inspired by that kind of music. That sample, that percussion loop in the background is from Sasha's Bloodlock, I believe. Because I was listening to that and thinking, man, this song needs like some kind of fast percussion to kind of speed it up, just like this song. And then I couldn't quite remake that feeling, so I thought, what if I just sample it? And I did. One could say this is, so derivative of Debt that it's almost a remix, but I don't know. You see many pop songs blatantly rip off other songs. I won't say this blatantly rips off. I do, of course, credit C418 in every thing of this song that exists online. Yeah, I was really pleased with this. I was pleased with the bassline bit, but at the same time I do believe that comes from the song as well. A memory I have of this song is my dad saying, it's a shame the vocal isn't really lyrical, and I was like, well, maybe this could have had some proper vocals, proper singing. But that was said after the song, after the album released, but also, I don't know, I was really pleased with this song actually. I don't remember ever at all being like, man. The only thing I was a bit iffy with the song was, would it be legally okay, given it's built around something I didn't write. But covers are permitted for being uploaded to places, and this is something where I've credited a musician. Yeah. The that like little whiny sound is also from that song. Since this is so long and there's not much else to add, I'll just go on to say that Rex and Triangle Reality also remixed this, and I thought they were both very, very good remixes. I was like, I think this is great for remixing, because it's more of a sonic palette than something to derivate and make into a, okay, maybe not the best choice of words, but it's kind of a wash of elements rather than, you know, these big striking vocal leads. Yeah, both remixes were fantastic in their own ways. I would say they went in the two opposite ways you could with this. But I was super pleased with this. Got lots of memories of driving down to college listening to this, of course, because this album was. But the thing was, yeah, this. So the album came about in the wake of making the Vex EP and the performance, which surprisingly to me was in a time when I was really creatively blocked. Like, I felt like I couldn't make anything, but I was forced by myself and college to make that for the project, and it reignited ultimately my music and my music career, if you will. But the rest of the album came about after I finished the course. The inspirations for this, I'd say, were Chicane. Chicane was just one of my biggest influences, full stop. I first listened to his music at the very, very, very start of 2018. Like, literally the first few days of January. And he greatly influenced. Also, literally, the Indefinity album from 2018 that I made contained samples of, I believe, a remix Chicane made. So the influence is, you know, there in spirits and also quite literally there in the song. No Chicane samples here though, only the C418 sample and the Sasha sample. Yeah, other memories of this include a friend saying, "Oh, I like this one," when listening to the album. And you know, if you ever have friends who do creative things, if you're not one of those people yourself, you know, so when you say those things, you obviously mean it, but you might just say it and then forget. But I don't think the creator will, you know, because I never forgot that. Unless everyone says it. This is Fragment, of course, made by myself and Malbox. This was, I want to say 60% Malbox. I mean, that's a high number, but he composed the melodies, the really amazing piano, and also made the trap, you know. If you're really familiar with my music, you'll know that I never really do this stuff, or when I do, it's not this good. I don't really do this. Like, when I do hip-hop stuff, it's more kind of, you know, big beat hip-hop rather than this intricate 808 stuff. And then this is where my influence really starts to come in. I add a very real drum sound to this. I was just like, how can we kind of combine this to make it sound like both of us, you know? And I was like, hey, what if I just like make the drums a combination of trap and also just, I don't want to just say real drums, because I mean, you know, didn't literally get a drummer to sit there and drum over this, but you know, real sounding drums. There's a vocal sample there that kind of sounds like the vocalist saying "Light the Way," but it's not that. I don't think, sadly. And yeah, I made the structure of the song. So Mailbox just made the composition and the whole trap part, and I kind of turned it into a song, I guess, is the best way of putting it. That's how most of my collaborations went around that time. Yeah, a bunch of stuff isn't really in key here. It's kind of a mishmash, but I don't think that really matters, you know, especially when it's all that low. I like the gate. I think I put the gate. I'm pretty sure I put the gate. I don't think Mailbox did. And the vocal. I also threw in all these random ass samples, like the vocal. Oh, I really like this break. This break is so satisfying, you know, where it's just the drums and the bass. And the samples. Yeah, an issue the song kind of has is that, you know, it's a bit repetitive. That it doesn't really go anywhere outside of the you know, that the chords and the melody stay the same throughout the whole song. It just kind of lets it breathe in between bringing them back in. So I just kind of stop it there and then have the song fade out. It's interesting. It actually starts slowing at the 3-minute mark, so the song is shorter than I thought. I thought it was like a 4-minute song. Don't even know my own music, apparently. And I think this was me as well, filtering the piano to go all funny. And yeah, this album's full of these ambient, kind of watery, windy sounds transitioning the tracks. My Love fades in at the end of Fragment. That was annoying to do, but it works, I think. And My Love begins. This is actually probably one of my favorite songs. I mean, I don't think about it often, but when I listen to it, I'm like, wow, I'm pleased with this one. There's a sample from You're My Uno, which is actually what he's saying. But then I come in and start saying You're My Love. So the lyrics, I guess, are both, because we're literally both saying You're My Uno and You're My Love at the same time. But I'm, of course, filtered to kind of sound like a blend in, because I'm not good at singing. And yeah, this song uses a surprisingly little amount of loops. I kind of made all the beat parts basically myself. And of course this melody comes in. I can't remember how I came up with this melody. It just kind of happened, and then I was like, man, this is good. I'm pleased with this. This is a sample from near the end of BT's Dreaming. I was listening to it. It's a good song. It's a really good song. And I just kind of thought, wow, it just breaks into the a cappella. You know, this is so easy to sample. I thought, maybe I should do that. I added that in afterwards. There was like a proto version of this song months before the final version. That was like much emptier. And I was like, man, this is like really good foundations, but it just needs more. So I added, you know, a pad as well. I added the BT sample, but it was fundamentally built off the Hat Film sample, which I, by the way, had because I remixed a song from that album. But for some reason, when the remixers were told, you know, given the stems, we downloaded the whole album. Unless I'm misremembering and I just decided to download that one as well. But yeah, I had the stems for it and then just thought, hey, this kind of works. This break here is cool. This is just totally Adam F inspired. 2019 was probably like the biggest year for me being influenced by drum and bass, as is evident by this album. And then, yeah, this song was also remixed, of course, by Zyben and Henry Brecco, of course. Henry Brecco made a very cool, very different mix of this song where it's all down tempo, and it was very good. And I could tell he was very pleased with it as well, adding it to his own album as a track. He was like, "Hey, would you be okay with me doing this?" Like, of course. Why wouldn't I? It's an honor. Part of this track, and a memory I have is he got artwork for each individual track, and then also, you know, My Love was on there, and I was like, hey, wow, I caused this to exist. It's cool. It's cool. And then I used that remix in one of the videos on the Mads and Larry channel. Videos on my hard drive 3, I believe. The intro is that song. And then, yep, then it just kind of ends with that really nice pad. And some water sounds, and then Cool Wind. Now, my biggest problem here is that the album kind of really tonally changes like that, like a light switch, when Cool Wind comes in, because there's no kind of prep for it. I could have done some kind of more fadey any intro for Cool Wind, but whatever. Cool Wind is one of my favorites. I remember the night when I put this together. I did it really quickly, actually. I remember the first draft of this song, which was like nearly finished, I want to say. It took like 40 minutes or something. I just slapped all these drum sounds together, and I was like, this is just such a vibe. Now, here's the funny thing. Like the opener, like Open Eye, The Sky is Purple, this is mostly samples. I just dug up samples, threw them together. Like, almost entirely samples. Yet I'm so happy with this song and love it compared to the first track. I don't know why that is. I guess I feel like I used them really creatively and really, you know, arranged where everything should go. Rather than the first one where I just kind of substituted actually composing a song with samples. And of course you have my vocals, which is me whispering, because you don't have to be good to sing at singing to whisper. Pro tip. Yeah. This break is a really good moment in the album, I think. That bass. Oh yeah, the bass. I did write the bass line though. That isn't a sample. I should do something new with this song. It's got potential, I think. Oh yeah, and then it goes to double time. Man, I'm just vibing to this. Anyway, not to be egotistical. In case you didn't catch that, that was Riding on the Surface of the Cool Wind. Just some rhythmic whispering, you know? And it kind of cuts off as a reverb tail, which you get a slight intro to Light Drifter at the end of Cool Wind. And then Light Drifter comes in. Very similar story to Fragment with Mailbox. Zorrio composed this amazing piano piece, this amazing ambient piece, which is basically the intro to the song untouched, basically. Like, the first, you know, before drop bit is kind of 100% Zorrio. So I take no credit for this incredible songwriting. As in, you know, what you're hearing now. I obviously do take credit for turning it into a song and the production. Yeah, and then it ended there originally. That was it. That was the... I remember Zorrio posted that, and I was like, please, I need to do something with this. This is too good. And then I remember, obviously, retrospectively, now that it's done, I'm like very pleased with this one. This is quite a highlight. The only reason I don't like it is because how like mellow and kind of, not really sad, but melancholic it is. But man, yeah, this like beat sample, the filter on it, it's cool. And then yeah, all I did with the song initially was just add this kind of halftime beat. And then slapped on an Amen break. Put in halftime. So I thought, I don't know, this kind of needs some splice. Add more real, authentic beat samples, drum beat samples. As you can see, that was very much my forte in this song. Kind of the drum work. But then originally this was it. I remember sending this and being like, yo, Zorrio, I did something. And then, understandably, it wasn't a lot, so calling that a collab was a stretch. And that wasn't the reason I went back to it. I just kind of went back to it and had more ideas. See, as you could hear, I already had the Amen break already in it. I just kind of thought, what if I just go all in and do the Amen break at full time? And so I did. It speeds up, or rather goes into full time. Yeah. This is definitely one of those carried by the Amen break songs. Though not really, because the composition's amazing. But yeah, all these bits are just me, because you can actually hear the outro coming in here, where you got a really filtered version of the piano. But yeah, I'm happy this happened, because I don't think Zorrio was planning to release this otherwise. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, some more percussion added here. Very much more drum and bass influence coming in. Though I wouldn't really call this drum and bass because of how slow it is. I think it's more like breakbeat, but then again, some of the old drum and bass was quite slow, so call it what you will. Yeah, it's cool. I'm pleased with this song. It's named after Hyper Light Drifter. I've only played a bit of it, seen more of it. I like the aesthetic of it, and it's called that because Zorrio, this title for the working title for the ambient bit was Hyper Light Drifter type beat. And because I found out that Hyper Light Drifter was already an existing game, I kind of cropped it off, but left enough of it there in homage to what influenced the song's creation ultimately. And then yeah, this outro, very pleased with it. I remember Zorrio liked it a lot as well. I actually can't fully remember how I made this. I think it was taking off the dry in Valhalla and just leaving it as the wet on its own. And this is, of course, Ghust. This is definitely one of my favourite songs that I've made. It's quite unusual because I don't really make kind of spooky sounding songs ever. Like I find it a bit hard and don't ever really try to yet. This is definitely like a kind of spooky sounding song with that almost organ sound. That was from the Vexed synth recording session, same as Light the Way. And of course, yeah, so the funny thing, a fun trivia about this song I think I've written elsewhere is that it's entirely made with hardware, ultimately, because these loops of drum and bass I ripped from hardware. Nothing here is from a sample library or from software. All the synths are hardware synths. But that doesn't mean it's better. It just, I think that's why this stands out a lot as one of my songs, that it's so uniquely made. The project file looks like none of any others. Yeah, that was cool. I do believe that that before the drop was me clicking the mouse to stop recording, and I just affected it really harshly. Yeah, really pleased with the that loop that kind of goes over the top of the other drum loops, where it's kind of being morphed and affected constantly. That's an Air Effects unit, which I was doing on stage as well, where it kind of lets you morph the effects, the kind of the high and low frequencies, low cut, high cut, with your hand, and that's how I was doing it. This bassline, I mean, of course, I've never made anything like this before or after this song, it's such a kind of, you could imagine some youths 15 years ago in a car with big speakers listening to it. It's that kind of bassline. And then, yeah, I always forget this part of the song exists. This is from a Mini Nova, probably one of the first presets. I'm sure if you have one or use one, you can play this really easily. But hey, I think it's good as a break, because the song is somewhat long. I'm very pleased with how many, there are several bass lines in the song. There are 3 or 4 bass lines in this song. I think that's pretty good, because I normally max at 2. The mixing could have been a bit better. The kicks kind of are a bit low in the mix. And I still hold it somewhat true that the kicks don't necessarily need to be the biggest thing. They don't need to deafen you. They don't need to absolutely crush everything else in the mix. But they are a bit low here, admittedly, yes. And also infrequent. When this big drop here, which I'm still really happy with, happens, there's 1 kick per measure, and for drum and bass, that's, yeah, I'm pleased with this. A memory, of course, that I have is going crazy on stage when this part of the song came on. The VIP mix of this exists as well, which was what if I did Ghust differently, which is exactly what a VIP mix is. So I thought it's an appropriate thing to call it. Variation in production, if you don't know, is what it stands for. Not a very important person. Yeah. Quite odd having that bass sidechain to the 4/4 kicks when there are no 4/4 kicks. But I'm definitely not the first to do that in drum and bass, so yeah. That was Ghust. Very full of memories. Playing this live, of course. Probably my greatest live moment yet. And then Blush Crimson comes in with Dour. Very similar story to the other collaborations. This main composition intro part was made, and then he didn't know what to do with the song, so I took it and made the song. For me, the song teeters a bit on the you know, it's kind of on the fence between, oh, it's, you know, pleasant and ambient and nice, and a bit like, you know, too sappy, a bit too like on the nose with how poppy and appealing it is. You know, it's, you know, almost commercial. But I don't think it's that far. I mean that in regards to what I did to the song, what Dour did to the song was, what, you know, was good. It's just I added this like really high pitched synth lead that you're hearing, and it gets even higher and even louder, and it's a bit intrusive, but an octave lower and it sounded too low. I can't remember if I made that part or not, but yeah. I do believe I made the beat to this, or at least adapted it, much like Fragment. And of course you have, you know, Zybin, Dour's lead, typical, you know, growly bass line as part of this. This, I believe, was actually the last song he released as Dour before changing to Zybin. I remember asking, do you want this to be like the first Zybin song or the last Dour song? And he was like, hey, it could be the last Dour song. I was like, okay, so be it. Of course, made many songs with this man. My most frequent collaborator by far. Yet actually, I don't believe currently there is a Rouse and Zybin song, but hey, a thing we've exchanged between us recently may well become that. Called Zappy. Yeah, these strings, of course, very, very him, but I kind of elaborated. Yeah, I don't know what more there is to say about the song besides, yep, he did this and I elaborated. That's kind of how it happened. I'm pleased with it. I think it's good. What I added to it may have been a bit too much, but I think it's fine. And of course you have the piano, the reprise, if you will, of the melody in this kind of pure state. And yeah, and it starts to end. Oh, of course, remixes. Yeah, this got remixed by Liquid Stereo, I think. And that was a very different take on the song. It was much more pop trap oriented. This is Rosemary. The working title was Last, I remember, just the word last, because it was going to be like the last song, but then it wasn't, so I picked a different name. I can't remember why I picked Rosemary, but I think it's really appropriate. It's quite unusual. A friend of mine said this sound compositionally sounds like Clocks by Coldplay, I think. And I can't unhear that, and I hate that. But I didn't realise at the time. Yeah, this was very C418 inspired. Not just, you know, the Minecraft music, but his earlier stuff. Like Bushes and Marshmallows, that era. Circle. Yeah, that's all over this. Lots of this uses a bunch of really obscure VSTs I found for the kind of ambience. But then, you know, you got your typical strings and synth, and this kind of almost whiny synth is quite unusual. But yeah, I didn't want the song to overstay its welcome, so it is the shortest on the album. It's only 2 minutes. Something I wasn't, you know, very thrilled about was how much high end there is in this part, but I think it's kind of, you know, unique, kind of stands out, because ultimately, you know, what makes music new is what's been done differently, and this is quite modern sounding, I guess, if you will, to me. And then you've got this, I think I was like automating the delay here, which is why it kind of sounds a bit weird, like it's changing, but it's not really. And then it stops, but the delay carries on, so it kind of morphs. And then you've got liquid, hence liquid ice. Yes, let's address the elephant in the room. Liquid ice is, in fact, water. Well done. Do you want a medal? Now, all sarc aside, you know, all sarc aside, I genuinely didn't realise that until someone pointed it out. So, joke's on me. However, it's definitely a cooler name than water. You have to admit that. It may be a silly name, but whilst the song isn't, you know, silly, it's a more serious tone song. I think it's appropriate. It's kind of suggesting this grandiose majesty, but it isn't really there. It's ultimately just water, and I guess that kind of fits the song. But yeah, I was extremely pleased with this song. Absolutely one of my favourite songs ever that I've made, rather. Mixing definitely could have been better, but I was learning. Bassline, yep, just cool. And then, yeah, the two different parts with the basslines. Obviously, you know, if you look at my releases, my discography, it's quite apparent that I liked this song, given I made I put it out as a single on its own. I made a vocal. No, sorry, I'm jumping the gun. Doorstep Rebellion, friend and collaborator, released a remix for the Remixes EP, and it was very good. One of my favourite remixes of my work ever. Clearly, I'm not alone in thinking that, because it is quite highly viewed as well. And then yeah, I was like, oh, that's so creative how you put a vocal sample in. Can I have the vocal sample, please? And then like do something with it. So I got it and made my own vocal edit and released that. It wasn't the best, but you know, it was different. I like making different versions of songs. I don't do it enough. All these vocal samples, very, I think, you know, I like that a lot of samples in this kind of repeat throughout the song. It's just kind of ambience, white noise almost, but they're all there. And of course you have I guess in a way this kind of has lyrics, because you can kind of sing along to that, you know, there are like vocal sounds. That wasn't the vocal sounds, but I really like this bass line here. So I made it extra prominent in the vocal edit. Yeah, the original Liquid Ice is 6 minutes long. All other edits are shorter, I believe. The only other edit I don't like is Ice Liquid, which was quite in the early stages. I made a different version, which had a different bass line. I think the original bass line, or like, no, I'm not sure if it was the original bass line. I think it was just another version with a different synth for the bass line. Yeah, sadly that, you know, awesome lead is just a sample. I didn't write that, but it fits so well. And yeah, that bit is yeah, I'm really pleased with that. There are like 3 different synths playing those notes in the climax of the song, and as the song fades out, it whittles. Right at that bit there, There's like a bit where you can hear the water sound cut through really high in the mix, and it's kind of odd, but given how the bass line's gone, it kind of gives us feeling like the plane's had a rough landing, but you've landed now, kind of thing. I don't know if I'm making sense, but then it's just the bass line here with the vocals. It's odd listening to this and comparing it to my more recent stuff. But yes, of course, it has a very, grand long outro. The actual song is like under the 5-minute mark, and then the rest is just outro. Which is appropriate because it's the outro of the album, and I planned it to be. And it kind of really, fades out, goes through the different versions of that lead. And yeah, all in all, the album, I don't really know what else to say. I don't know how to kind of collate my words. I do love Wide Eye Horizon. I think it's one of my proudest works. In general, I think in some ways it's more consistent and better than Face in the Water. Thank you for listening to my commentary track. I have no idea if this has been interesting, or if anyone is listening this far in, then genuinely thank you. You're being this interested in my music. It's such an honor to me. I cannot genuinely believe that someone else, may be doing this. Thank you. Goodbye.